Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Upgrades. I'm Jeremy Knoll.
And I'm John Suarez.
And today we are going to be talking about the Exit from Exile deck from Commander Legend, Battle for Baldur's Gate. This is the red-green deck that really cares about casting spells from Exile and playing lands from Exile.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited. I got to play this one for our crossover episode there.
Yeah, I got my head beat in by it.
Yeah, it was real good. So the main commander for this deck is Faldrin Dread Wolf Herald. It's a 3/3 human druid for 1 red-green, 3 mana. And it says, whenever you cast a spell from Exile or a land enters the battlefield under your control from Exile, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token, and then you can pay 1, tap it, discard a card, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot of play in that stuff. Just like the other decks from this set, there is another legendary creature and a background that goes with it.
Yeah. This one you get a Durnan of Yawning Portal, 3 calls and a green 3/3 human warrior. Whenever it attacks, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may exile a creature card from among them, put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order, and as long as that card remains exiled, you may cast it, and that card has Undaunted. So it costs 1 less for each opponent that you have. And then choose a background, and then in this deck you choose Passionate Archaeologist. 2 colors or 1 color in a red. Background, commander creatures you own have whenever you cast a spell from exile. This creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent.
That's super sweet. I love it a lot.
It is very good.
Just to go back and go through a couple of stats from the deck, there are 27 creatures, 5 instants, 15 sorceries, 4 artifacts, 7 enchantments, and 2 planeswalkers in this deck. Is that correct?
And a million basic lands.
Yeah, there are
a million lands.
Yeah, 39 lands in this deck, but you do kind of want the lands because you're going to be able to be exiling them, and then you need to play them from exile. So, yeah.
Yeah, you do have 2 planeswalkers. They're both very good.
Vivian and Xenagos. I forgot they were both in this deck, even though I played it because I don't think I saw either of them when I played it the first time. All right, so one of my favorite spells, at least from the name, because this is one of my favorite D&D spells, is Delayed Blast Fireball.
This card's very good.
Yeah, it's 1 red instant, deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If this spell was cast from exile, it deals 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control, and it has Foretell for 4 red, so you can put it in exile yourself and cast it that way.
Yeah.
So.
But this deck being able to cast it for 3 and still be able to get that effect is pretty insane.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip to my favorite card of this deck, and I'll leave you the other one, and that is Green Slime. 2 calls and a green 2/2. There's a lot of these creatures. It seems like every deck has gotten one of these flash 2 or 3 mana cards that have a lot of text and do something really cool.
Yeah.
And this one is flash 2/2. Whenever Green Slime enters the battlefield, counter target activated or triggered ability from an artifact or an enchantment source. If a permanent's ability is countered this way, you destroy that permanent. And it has Foretell, so you can play it for 3 mana either way. 2 for the Foretell, and then 1 to foretell it, or just 3. This card's really, these are the type of cards that are hard to evaluate until you get to play with them.
Yeah.
And you're really surprised at how useful they are.
Yeah, this one's pretty sweet. Going back, we have Nalfashni, which is Nalfashni, which is a beast demon, 4/6 for 5 in a red, flying. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. You may choose new targets for a copy. If it's a permanent spell, the copy gains hastened at the beginning of the end step. Sacrifice this permanent. So, works pretty well with your commander.
So the next card, I did not realize how insanely powerful this card was until I played against it, and that is Journey to the Lost City.
Because it's an enchantment with the rolls, not just like an instant.
It's an enchantment, so it just stays.
It stays around.
At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 4 cards of your library, then roll a d20. 1 through 9, you can put a land from among those into the battlefield. 10 through 19, you create a 2/2 wolf, then put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card among those cards. Or 20, you put all permanent cards exiled with Journey to the Lost City in the battlefield, and then sacrifice it. All. So you just sit there all game long, and then eventually, 20.
Nope, somebody hit
everything comes in.
Everything just comes in.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It is very good.
Hitting a critical hit in D&D should feel epic, and this makes it feel epic for sure. This is one of the best ones, I think, as far as getting that feeling from hitting a crit hit. So the next one is Twinkali Hunter. It's a Scorpion Scout, 7/7, 5 green, but it also has an adventure, Retrieve Prey, 1 and a green, sorcery adventure. Exile target creature card from your graveyard until the end of your next turn. You may cast that card. pretty good. And then the Hunter itself is trample. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a creature spell you cast from exile.
Yeah.
This one's really sweet. I know you like doing the
I do.
The not having to cycle, paying 0 for cycling, paying 0 for this, paying 0 for this one's.
I also just really like the Scorpion Scout. The art's awesome.
The art is
I love
super
adventure
sweet.
cards as well. I played adventure forever in Standard. Big fan. Next card, I'm also really liking this card a lot, along with Journey of the Lost City, and that is Venture Forth. 3 colors and a green sorcery. Exile a top card of your library until you exile a land card. You put that card in the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and then you exile this and put 3 time counters on it. So you get to suspend it, because I suspend 3 for 2, and then when you play it, you make a wolf, and then you get a land and you make a wolf, and then you suspend it again, and then 3 turns later you're doing it all over.
Doing it again.
Yeah.
Next one is an artifact, Saravok's Tome, 4 mana. When Saravok's Tome enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. Tap for colorless. If you have the initiative, add 2 colorless instead. And then 3 tap it exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Activate only if you have completed a dungeon. So, all right. So now we are going to go over the cards that we would add to the deck, and then some cards that we would suggest taking out of the deck. So there are a couple of cards that I think are pretty obvious with this.
Yes, for sure, especially since this card was just recently printed.
Exactly.
And this is, I still love the name of this card. It's Professional Facebreaker. That's what they also call me.
Yeah.
3 mana, Human Warrior, Menace, from Streets of New Capenna. And this is 2/3. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token. Then you can sacrifice a treasure token to exile the top card of your library, and you can play that card this turn.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely bonkers with your commander.
Yeah, like sacrificing a treasure to be able to just play a card off the top of your list. It is this turn. There are several of those that do like until your next turn, like Jessica's Will, which is in the deck and things like that. Until the end of your next turn or whatever. This one is this turn, but still, if you're going to be making a bunch of treasures, this is a great card.
Yep.
Especially in this deck. Next one is a classic that has had a reprint kind of recently, Azusa Lost but Seeking, another one of my favorites. 2 and a green for a human monk, 1/2. You can play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. Guess what? If you're exiling a bunch of extra lands, you can put lands from exile.
I played against an upgraded version of this deck at Command Fest, and they had Azusa going, and it did not feel good. The number of wolves just never stopped.
3 wolves each turn.
It just never stopped.
That's obnoxious.
Yeah. So again, like you said, kind of obvious cards. Chandra, Torch of Defiance, a 4 mana planeswalker with 4 loyalty. Its +1 is to exile the top card of your library, and you can cast the card, and if you don't, it deals 2.
Yep.
So you won't be able to play a land off of that one, but you'll get a little bit of damage, and then if you can cast it, then you're probably getting a wolf anyways.
Yeah.
That has a million other abilities. To add mana, deal 4 damage to a creature, and an emblem that basically says you lose. Your opponent's lose the game. Everybody start catching lava axes.
This one is from the Commander 21, which was the Strixhaven set, Rousing Refrain. And this is one that I think we talked about it quite a bit. That we really liked the idea for these cards. So it's 3 red for a sorcery, and it's add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Exile Rousing Refrain with 3 time counters on it. So kind of like we talked about before, it just keeps coming back.
Yep.
So it's a targeted, like the half of Jessica's Will, and you just keep getting that extra mana that keeps coming back every couple of turns.
Yep. And you get a wolf with it whenever you have your commander, right?
The extra wolf. So.
Next card is probably one of the cards that I think was picked as like the scariest card out of Neon Dynasty, which was Containment Construct. 2 colorless, 2/1. It's an artifact creature construct. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn, which is absolute bonkers.
It's absurd in this deck for sure.
Absolute bonkers.
Yeah. The next one is one that I really like, Burji, God of Storytelling. I know that you can play this in like a Storm deck when you're playing like the Burji side of things, because it's one of the flip cards, and it's on the front side a 3/3 for 2 and a red god. Whenever you cast a spell, add red. Until the end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases ends. And creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns, which like almost never happens.
That's not what we're playing this card.
This one does really well in Storm decks for that. But the back half of the card is what you really want. And I think this one, I really love this card because it's so good in 2 different versions of decks. The back end of the card is Harfnell, Horn of Bounty. It's 4 and a red for a legendary artifact. Discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn.
Yeah. That's why you're playing it.
This is why you're playing in this deck for sure. But I love the utility of this card.
Just hope you never have to deal with this and Containment Construct, because then I get to discard the card
to play that, exile these two, play that, get a bunch of tokens.
Yeah, it'll get obnoxious.
Yeah, it's obnoxious.
So since you're getting a bunch of tokens, all 2/2 wolves, Tovolar, Dire Overlord, 3 mana, 1 red green, 3/3. It's a human werewolf legend. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So it has a little bit of that coastal piracy thing for your tokens. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves and or werewolves, it becomes night. Then you transform any number of human werewolves you control. And obviously it has day bound, so it makes a day. Then you'll transform it to the night side, where it's Tovolar, the Midnight Scourge. It still has the wolf or werewolf dealing combat damage, drawing a card, but it also gives target wolf or werewolf +X, +O, and trample if you pay X red green, like Keswick Wolfrun.
Keswick Wolfrun, but a tribal.
And it becomes a 4/4.
Yeah. Still really good. And plus, adding an extra Keswick Wolfrun on there for your, your tokens is just a good threat. So, last card is one I know you really like.
I'm a big fan.
Uba Mask. It's a 4-mana artifact. If a player would draw a card, that player removes that card from the game face up instead, which is Exile now. And each player may play cards he or she removed from the game with Uba Mask this turn. It's just really great for yours.
It's great for your commander because you get to make 2/2s. If you're playing against any kind of control deck and they start exiling counter spells, you never have to worry about seeing those later on in the game.
Don't worry about it.
There are some combinations you can do. I've played this card in Vintage Magic, where you get something like Bazaar of Baghdad.
Oh, yeah.
And you just create an engine.
Yeah.
And draw a lot of cards every turn.
Exile lots of cards.
Which you can do in Commander too if you're just random enough and have a Bazaar laying around. Perfectly legal. Have at it.
All right, so a few cards that we would suggest taking out of the deck, and this isn't necessarily going to replace or take out all the cards that we are putting in, one for one, but just a few that we would probably suggest. I think the two obvious ones, like I talked about it a little bit, the Cervex Tome, which is probably really good in a dungeon deck.
Yes, a dedicated venturing initiative style deck. And obviously the ultimate effect of Exile on top card, playing them. You have to complete a dungeon.
You have to complete a dungeon to get
and this deck is not going to adventure or take the initiative very often.
Yeah.
So.
And then Nalfshni, which is the 4/6 demon, the new one. It's okay.
It's fine.
Yeah. If you're going to be for 6 mana, copying spells is like okay.
Yeah. Well, Ignite the Future. Like, this card is perfectly fine. If you want to play it, it's not a problem. For 4 mana, you look at the top 3 cards and you can play them until the end of your next turn. But you're very rarely going to flash this back. There are other things you can be doing that with 8 mana that this isn't necessarily what you want.
Yeah. And then Izzet Chemster.
This is just an Izzet card. What's it doing in my Groll deck? I don't even understand. That shouldn't even be allowed. That's like anti-commander. It might as well have hybrid mana in its cost. I don't understand.
Flavor fail. You got to call it
super flavor. Yeah, super flavor.
Yeah, it is. Tap a red to exile target instant sorcery card from your graveyard. And so you could, potentially play that, whatever. Yeah. Cast any number of cards exiled with it without paying their mana cost.
If it was Gruul Chemister, I would have left it in.
But flavor fail, you're just like, get it out of here. Nah. So those are the cards that we would suggest adding in and taking out of the Exit from Exile deck. Make sure to let us know what cards you would add in the comments below. Make sure to also like, comment, share, subscribe, binge, and hit the button to be notified of all new episodes coming out on the channel. For Jonathan Suarez, I'm Jeremy Knoll. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.